So, what are the key issues President Obama should address during his interview with John? Well, let us ask Diana Furchtgott-Roth, Senior Fellow at the Manhattan Institute, and Jared Bernstein, Senior Fellow at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. Diana, you're in the room. You've got the president one-on-one. What would you ask him?
Well, I would ask him why he isn't meeting with leaders to try to resolve this crisis. Today, he's announced that, yes, he's going to speak with Harry Reid and Boehner at the White House, but he should be doing this every day until the crisis is resolved. I would also ask him why he doesn't repeal the medical device tax, the 2.3% tax, which is part of Obamacare, but which the majority of Republicans and Democrats on the Hill say is impeding the growth of the industry and resulting in jobs going overseas. Just yesterday, Merck announced that it was laying off another 8,500 people on top of the 7,500 people they laid off before.
Well, what do you think his answer would be, Diana?
Do I think, I didn't catch that?
Well, what do you think his answer would be to that? What do you think he would come back at you with?
Well, you know, I'm not the president. I really don't know, but I think he should take a tone that is not demonizing the opponents. He's the leader of all the American people. He should operate in a neutral manner, and he should be agreeable to compromise, because there's 3 branches of government, and he only has one of them.
What about you, Jared? What would you ask the president?
Well, first of all, let me say I'm very glad that John is going to be talking to him later. I'm going to be listening to that carefully for precisely this kind of conversation. I was also glad to hear that in Diana's list, and I think she comes at this from a more conservative place, she did not say repealing the Affordable Care Act should be on the list. And I think that's key. I think that any negotiation that's going to go anywhere has to do 2 things. First, it has to end the shutdown, and first, there has to be a solid agreement not to negotiate on the debt ceiling, as you heard Lloyd Blankfein say earlier. Then I think what the president should do, again, agreeing with Diane, is to talk about resolution. You say, once this disaster is behind us, these self-inflicted wounds to an economy and a market that frankly doesn't need it, once that's behind us, here are the kinds of compromises that both sides need to make to have a longer-term budget agreement, to really lift the debt ceiling so that we don't have to be back here in a week or 2.
Jared, though, here you go. Okay, I'm going to read you something. The rising debt is a hidden domestic enemy, robbing our cities and states of critical investments in infrastructure like bridges, et cetera, robbing our seniors of the retirement and health security they have counted on. That was then Senator Barack Obama in 2006 on why he voted not to increase the debt ceiling when we were at, quote, only $9 trillion. Now we're above $14 trillion, and we're saying, well, it should be a no-brainer. I'm trying to square the 2, Jared.
No,
I really am.
It's a perfectly fair question, and that was a very bad vote. And I actually believe that the president himself has agreed that that was a bad vote. I will say, if there's any tiny scrap of defense a breach of the debt ceiling was never under consideration there. So that was the senator saying to go ahead, senators, vote against this if you want. But it was a bad vote. Now here, on the substantive point that you've made, actually the deficit has fallen by more than half. It was 10% of GDP. Now it's 3 or 4% of GDP. So we've been moving in the right direction, in no small part because of $2.5 trillion over 10 years in spending cuts and those tax increases at the top of the scale. So we've actually been making some progress in that regard.
Diana, what do you think the president has to either lose or gain in political capital by budging, by compromising at this stage of the game?
Well, I think, first of all, he has to look like a large leader. In the Wall Street Journal last week, Peggy Noonan said he looked like a small leader. I mean, he's just had a defeat as regards Syria. The Middle East isn't going too well. He needs to show that he can do domestic policy. Another thing he might want to do in terms of the spirit of conciliation is delay the individual mandate for a year. He's already delayed the employer penalty for a year. He's delayed the income verification, and he can say, all right, I'll let anyone who wants to sign up, but if you want to delay it for a year, there won't be any penalties. It doesn't seem fair to delay it for the employers and not to delay it for the individuals.
All good points, Diana and Jared. Thank you very much for joining us. And by the way, folks, viewers, listeners, you can watch John Harwood's exclusive interview with the president in less than 2 hours' time. That is right here on CNBC. Also here on CNBC is Street Signs, 3 big headlines moving